Today, we're jumping into a really provocative idea from an author who basically says, to build a better world, maybe we need to get rid of everything we think we know about rules, tradition, and even experts. All right, let's get into it. It's a question we deal with all the time. When you have a big decision to make, what's the first thing you do? You probably look for someone with experience, right? Someone with authority. But what if that whole instinct is just plain wrong? That's right. The answer we're looking at today is a hard never. And yeah, that's a pretty shocking stance. It's really designed to make us rethink the entire foundation of how we build our society and who we look to for guidance. So, what's the thinking behind something so radical?
To really get it, we first have to unpack the case against rules. See, the argument here is that our obsession with having established systems, laws, and traditions, well, it isn't protecting us. It's actually a cage, and it's stopping us from truly innovating.
This quote really hits the nail on the head. Just think about it for a second. Every rule is a boundary. And sure, boundaries can make us feel safe, but they also shrink the space where new ideas can even exist. So the more rules you add, the smaller and smaller that creative space becomes.
And what's wild is how specific the author gets. We're told to ignore elders, leaders, legal experts, the very people who define the existing rules. But it doesn't stop there. Religious leaders are too bound by doctrine, historians are stuck in the past, and even family is on the list because they're often afraid of risk. You see the pattern here, right? All these sources of wisdom are rooted in what is, not in what could be.
So the real point here isn't that rules are bad. It's that they're just temporary. They're temporary fixes for a specific problem at a specific time. When we start treating them like they're these permanent, universal truths, we're basically locking ourselves out of finding new, maybe better ways to live. It's like trying to discover new continents using a map from 500 years ago. It's just not going to work.
Okay, so if our rule-based systems are so broken, what's the proof? Well, the author points to two huge and apparently unsolvable problems that they say expose the absolute limits of what we humans can achieve with our current way of thinking.
Just two. But believe me, these two challenges are so fundamental that they're meant to prove that our current methods just aren't cutting it.
Okay, so let's check them out. First, a challenge for science. Create life. And we're not talking about a robot or some fancy AI. We're talking about a simple carbon-based life form, like an ant or even a single blade of grass. The second challenge is for society. Create harmony. Take 80 people from totally different walks of life, different cultures, religions, races, and get them to live together happily and peacefully. One is about creation, the other, cooperation.
Now, according to this philosophy, humans are 0 for 2. We can't solve either one. Why? Because to create life, we'd apparently need a spiritual source that we just don't have. And to create real harmony, something that's escaped humanity for thousands of years, well, that would take the wisdom of a divine messenger.
And this quote kind of sums it up. The author points out that in 5,000 years of recorded history, with all our brilliant philosophers and powerful kings, no one has ever built a utopia that actually lasted. I mean, people have tried. There was that famous New Harmony community back in the 1820s. Yeah, it fell apart in just a couple of years. History is just littered with these failures.
But this isn't just about tearing things down. The author doesn't just leave us with a list of problems. Instead, we're offered a solution. A real, tangible vision for a different way to live, especially when it comes to how we grow old.
First, though, we have to look at the grim reality this vision wants to fix. The source material paints a pretty bleak picture of aging in the modern world, right? Loneliness, being dependent on your kids who are already stretched thin, waiting around in a nursing home. It's often a time filled with unspoken hardship and, honestly, a lot of fear. Now, contrast that with this alternative. Imagine a community where you're surrounded by people of all ages. You've got friends your own age, but also the energy and joy of kids running around. All your daily chores, cooking, laundry, taken care of. You have meaningful things to do, entertainment, and truly compassionate personal care. In this world, the end of life isn't something to be afraid of. It's a joyful, peaceful transition. And here's the real kicker. This whole thing, it isn't some fantasy, it's not a dream. The author claims that this exact community, this paradise, it's real, and it's been working successfully for over a decade.
So naturally, that leads us to the biggest question of all. If it's not rules, and it's not laws or social engineering, what's the secret sauce? What's the one single thing that makes this seemingly impossible community actually work?
Right?
How do you solve that unsolvable problem of getting 80 different people to live in harmony? How do you create a place where getting older is something to look forward to? Well, the answer is apparently way outside of any system we're familiar with.
The key, the single ingredient, according to this author, is something called spiritual purification. Now, the source material is a little mysterious on the exact process, but it's presented as the one and only ticket in. It's not about your money, your job, or what you believe. It's all about some kind of deep internal transformation that gets you ready to live in perfect harmony.
And that brings everything full circle. The entire philosophy boils down to this one powerful idea. The reason we shouldn't listen to experts and rule makers is because they're all trying to fix the external system. This author says that's completely backwards. The goal isn't to create better rules for flawed people. It's to create better people who don't even need all those restrictive rules in the first place.
It's a pretty radical vision, for sure. It challenges us to look inside ourselves for solutions instead of outside. And it really leaves us with a huge question to think about. If we really do want to build a better world, is it our rules, our traditions, and maybe even our entire history that we have to be willing to let go of?